G'day legends, Blake here with another video, and within minutes of posting my last one, which also was really fun, and I think that I'm getting my mojo back with this thing, but within posting that video, I got a comment of, why do I have so many nano tanks? And I thought it's a great topic to delve into today, so let's jump straight into it. So if you've been watching the channel for a while, you'll know that I have this here 8x2x2 aquarium, or 2.4 meters by 60 centimeters by 60 centimeters. Over 1,000 liters or over 250 gallons. So I'm definitely not scared of big tanks, and of course there are huge benefits in terms of that water volume. It provides more versatility in terms of the species that you can keep. If you do overfeed and things like that, there's definitely a wider buffer there before nutrients will add up really quickly. But there are downsides as well. Large aquariums like my 4x3x2 aquarium or the 8x2x2 aquarium, or even for some people, aquariums like this that are 4 foot by 18 inch by 18 inch, quickly 120 centimeters by 45 centimeters by 45 centimeters, 120 centimeters by 90 centimeters by 60 centimeters, and we already covered that one over there. But these tanks can be big, heavy, cumbersome, difficult to move. You might need help. You'll definitely need help with ones like this, but you might need help with ones like this, depending on what your own capabilities are. And you also need to find space for them all. As well as that, if you're in a situation where you're on floorboards or in a rental, or you want to keep it in somewhere that has carpet, these sorts of aquariums present a fair bit of risk in terms of if something does go wrong, which basically every aquarium is a ticking time bomb. And by that, I mean that glass aquariums, at least, are held together by silicon, which has a lifespan of around about 10 years and can easily run into issues and cause disaster, especially if they're on uneven surfaces and things like that. But stuff of nightmares, hopefully it never happens to you. And even with 50+ aquariums, I've only ever had 2 or 3 leak, so don't worry too much about it. So whilst large aquariums are always preached about because the larger water volume helps especially beginners learn to maintain their aquariums appropriately within a given amount of time, and things can add up really quickly in these smaller water volumes, it's not all sunshines and rainbows, and there's definitely benefits to smaller aquariums like this. Don't just forget about them and discount them, because they are really handy too, and there's a reason why about half of my aquariums are within this sort of 20 litre, 5 gallon range. For starters, these tanks are really great for growing up fry, like these baby emerald raspberries in here. They have to swim less as well to get to the food, so sometimes in a large water volume, baby fish like this can actually waste away swimming to try and get to the food, which might sound kind of strange that a fish can sort of die of swimming, but what happens is they expend so much energy swimming from one side to the other where you're choosing to feed, that they actually don't increase their energy stores and create fat and get larger, because they're spending it all just swimming around. Also, small tanks like this use less substrate, less decorations, are super quick and easy to fill, and really portable. I can carry a couple of these at a time if I really want to. I can throw them in the back of the car, no problems at all. And you know, it's just an easy one. Even there's been times where I've set these smaller tanks up on the floor under a desk if you have a surprise spawn or something like that. Really versatile, really handy things, especially if you are likely to have fish that are going to breed for you. Another example can be found here in these shrimp tanks here. In the space of about 3 meters or 8 foot, 9 foot, I can keep 10 different species, colors, or varieties of shrimp really easily. A 5 gallon or 20 litre tank is going to be plenty for an awesome shrimp tank. They'll breed and reproduce in crazy numbers that you didn't think was possible, because they're not too big and they don't produce that much waste. However, if I was only going to keep a large tank in this space, and it would be a low boy to do so, but I'd only be able to keep probably maybe 1 species, 2 species if I'm really lucky, or color variants. And me, as the person that's taking all the expense, doing all the work, I'd likely get bored and want to move on to something else. So this here allows me to get the maximum enjoyment out of a heap of different varieties of shrimp, and they're still happy and healthy as long as I keep up my end of the bargain. And what I mean by that is, of course, doing plenty of water changes and monitoring the amount of feeding I'm doing, Also cleaning out the filter and things like that, because as I mentioned, things can accumulate really quickly in those smaller tanks. Even things like temperature are worth considering with smaller tanks. If your room is prone to getting really cold or really hot due to seasonal conditions, then your water parameters are going to fluctuate a lot more in a smaller tank than they will a larger tank. So you just got to be mindful of those things and keep it in mind and use that to inform your decision making, whether you're going to go for a larger tank, something in the middle, or maybe something a bit smaller. On the topic of expenses, of course, smaller tanks use much thinner glass and as a result are also much cheaper. They're probably also more commonly available than especially some of the larger 10 or 12 mil thick glass tanks that you might have to buy out there. Another thing to consider is medication. If one of my discus here was to have an issue and I had to medicate them, deworm them, or anything else, a larger volume of water here like this 4x2x2 aquarium, 120 centimeter by 60 by 60, roughly 400 to 500 liters, 200 to 250 gallons. That is going to require quite a lot of medication and therefore incur more of an expense. Now there is a little bit of a hack to get around that, in which case I could just drop the water level to halfway and then only medicate half of that tank. But it's just another thing to consider. Smaller tanks, less medication, less consumables if something does go wrong, and it could potentially be cheaper. The same goes for if you're going to choose to use chemicals to buffer your water parameters or anything else, even dechlorinator, when changing more volume of water, that's going to incur a higher cost. So all in all, the question isn't as simple as saying larger tanks are better than smaller tanks. It all comes down to what you want to keep, how much work you want to put in, what expense you want to go to get that tank that you're after, and the likelihood of wanting to keep a variety of species, especially if those have to be separated or they have different environmental conditions. As with everything, it comes down to circumstances, and only you will know the best circumstances for the fish that you want to keep. But as for me, I like both a variety of large tanks and small tanks, because that way I get to go and get collectoritis at my local fish store and pick up whatever I want. Because for me, having a variety of tanks affords me the luxury to pick and choose what I want to keep, and I have heaps of different places and options to house them. So there you go, guys. If you like this video, it always helps me out to smash like, hit subscribe, and all that fun stuff. And I'll catch you on the next one. Thanks for watching.